What is up, fam? Welcome to Get the Bag podcast. I'm your host, Gladia Castro. Got my co-host right here, Tim Parr. You know something different? We're both live.
We both live. That's what's up.
Man, and happy birthday to my guy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Man.
Appreciate
happy birthday.
It.
We have a super special episode today. But first, before I get into the nitty gritty, please post your questions throughout our conversation. I know they're going to pop up. This is a really exciting topic. We'll be talking about kind of a hot topic related to crypto, NFTs. How do you make money doing that? Such a fairly new concept of like making money, and people have so many questions. So many people still don't know how to get into crypto, NFTs, like where to start. So we have a very special guest. We got Dennis out here in Los Angeles. We figured we would just invite him over. He's a software developer and almost 7 years experience working on creative and business web applications. And it wasn't until around late 2021 where he kind of stumbled upon a music NFT startup and kind of really began crypto full time. So really excited because he's also one of our mentors, Chris Jefferson. Shout out to Chris.
Shout out.
It's his younger brother, Dennis. So let's welcome Dennis Jefferson to the stage.
Hey, how are y'all doing? Thank you for having me. Really excited to part ways with my knowledge, and yeah, let's do this.
That's awesome. I appreciate you guys, you coming on and letting us do it live from your place, man. This is a first for us, so I appreciate that.
Of course, happy to have y'all here.
Yeah. So, why don't you take us through like a little bit about yourself, like because I mean, for us, we're in Chris's group, so he talks a lot about. Well, he really doesn't try to, it doesn't go into the details of like. I think he likes to keep it professional. But
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get some secrets out of you, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, I guess to start off, I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and pretty much lived my whole life up until I went to school. I was in South Carolina, so I moved to Columbia, and then around 5th grade, moved to Richmond, Virginia, went to high school there and middle school. So yeah, I guess pretty early on, my father was a civil engineer in the military and the Air Force, and surrounded me with all sorts of fun things, including boating. So he had a boat, had a really cool car, motorcycle. That kind of got me into the automotive scene, and then also just cool gadgets, and ended up getting me and my brother a computer, which we had in our little back room of our bedroom that we shared. And I was pretty fascinated with that. Begged them for years, hey, I want to take this thing apart, see what's on the inside. Of course, they wouldn't let me do this. Back in the 90s, computers were expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
So eventually he did get a second computer once that thing wore out, and I got to take it apart. I don't think I ever put it back together, but that kind of sparked my interest. And then just growing up, I kind of grew up on the internet because, I got to see a lot of things from, I guess, like the AOL days.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think I started using
my
the
gosh,
Dude.
you got mail.
Yeah.
AIM. Yeah, I think we all lived on AOL Instant Messenger back in the 90s, trying to talk to girlfriends, boyfriends,
In the chat rooms.
Yeah,
right.
there you
No,
go.
if I
Chat
heard
rooms.
the
Yeah,
little,
there you
I
go.
played some. I heard the little, those little sound effects.
Yeah, that was a legendary moment in time. So I guess from there, I tinkered a little bit when I was a kid, and then got into it a bit more in high school. So I took a graphic arts class, and then ended up taking a programming class as well after the graphic arts class. So it gave me a little bit of confidence there to, pursue this. And as I was graduating high school, I was at a crossroad. Do I do that or focus on automotive technology? And so I chose the automotive side, and graduated there, did really well. Lived in Florida, Orlando, Florida. That was a really eye-opening experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Florida's a vibe, right?
Florida's a vibe. I mean, I went down there, like the city is just like in party mode the whole time. Yeah, you got the Magic there, basketball team, and Miami's close. So yeah, super lit, amazing experience. Lived in Arizona for a while. Went back to Virginia. Worked in the automotive field for a little bit. Found out it was not for me. Very tough work.
Yeah.
I love doing it and messing around with my own stuff a little bit. But yeah, it wasn't a career for me, and fell into front end development. So I started first. What I started doing was trying to start some sort of business. And one thing that I think was pretty popular back then. So this is like probably 2010 or so, 2010, 2011, was making t-shirts. Right?
Yeah.
There was starting to be that era of online businesses and people, trying to get creative and just kind of do whatever online business. We're actually we were pretty deep into it, but it was like the mobile era, and mobile apps were really big. So I realized I had kind of an inclination for art and technology, and realized I could combine those with the skills that I had in graphic arts, and then kind of looking back to my younger years, with programming. And so the natural thing to do was front end development, which is like the intersection of art and programming. It's the part that you see, right?
Yeah.
That was a place. So that was a place for me to be. Realized I really wanted to do that, and then in Virginia, I think probably about 4 years, I taught myself how to teach myself stuff first, and then taught myself programming at the same time. My friend off camera over here, best friend, Landon West.
Shout out to Landon.
Our producer, right?
Yeah, he's the behind the scenes guy, on all the strings. So he came out to LA and was like just ranting and raving, like how amazing this place is, and it is quite amazing, right?
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, was it really just kind of like your friendship that was like, hey, yeah, go out there, I'll figure it out, I'll find a job, or was it you also kind of have a job already lined up?
I didn't have a job. I kind of had a mentor that lived out here who showed me some of the ropes and led me onto a more professional track, because I was really doing a lot of stuff solo and learning myself. But I didn't have anything lined up. I knew by looking just on Craigslist and the job boards, there were just a ton of opportunities, and comparing it to Virginia, there was a ton of entry level stuff where they weren't looking for a lot of experience.
Right.
And so kind of the way to get into programming is just like make your own stuff and prove that you can do it. So I had done a lot of that with my own projects.
Sure.
And then Landon offered me a interview at a call center, because I'd also been working at call centers, kind of get my communication skills up and talking to people. I wasn't the best at that. So he offered me an interview and then allowed me to stay at his place.
Nice.
And I think he called me for like a week straight, convinced me of that. And I was like, all right, got the plane ticket, came over. So that was kind of how I made the jump from Virginia to LA.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice. I think everybody kind of, when they get to LA, is a couch surfing kind of deal or whatever. Because that's kind of how I, was brought to LA. I got a job but I was couch surfing on my buddy's couch. I mean, until I got on my feet, and then we went from there. But kind of very similar. So
yeah, I'm born and raised in Cali, never been anywhere, but now I'm kind of with everything going on. I almost want to venture out and maybe go to East Coast, possibly Virginia too, just because I love the scene there. It's always something when you're from somewhere, your hometown, you don't really want to live there after a while. You're like, I need to scope the scene. So kind of so you landed this, you're basically doing gigs, just learning things on your own, probably YouTube University or just going through forums.
All of that, yeah.
So how long were you doing that was it until 2021 where it's like you were like starting to be exposed to crypto, or had you already been exposed?
Yeah, so the way that I got exposed to crypto, after I got to LA, probably within about a year, I ended up getting some tech job, and then ended up getting my first software developer job. And so I worked with a guy there, he sat behind me, and this was right in 2017, at the end of the bull run into 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just making, he had basically invested $10,000 and ran up to $70,000 in either Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he was pumped, he's on his phone all the time, checking everything.
Right.
Just basically evangelizing, telling us how great it was. So that was the first time I had heard about it. And I did a little research then, but I wasn't really into finance that much.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't really catch my attention. The digital gold narrative for Bitcoin didn't really spike my interest. And at that time, Ethereum wasn't very big at all. People weren't, I don't think, talking about that a ton unless you were really in the crypto space, which I wasn't.
Right.
So it had been in the back of my head, and I bought a little bit then. Didn't even spend like $1,000, right? And then just kind of saw how it worked, and was just like, this isn't for me.
I think we all said that. I remember when it was, because Bitcoin was founded maybe 2012 or 2009. Yeah, much earlier. Yeah. So once it started like coming out, everyone was like, nah, it's a scam, or like it's never gonna get anywhere, and people were scared to invest. I know, I was kind of like, Bitcoin, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
I wish, we could. I think we all say that now.
I know. Yeah. I was in the same boat, so
it's like everyone underinvested.
Right.
Everyone.
There's probably the few that we know now.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like when I say everyone, of course, I mean like probably 90% of the people that heard about it, right?
Right.
Like most people, it had its like first big run in 2013.
Right.
And that's when it came mainstream. So the second one was Ethereum had a run in 2017. It came out around 2016, 2015. So then, anyway, so fast forward with the journey. I've been working software developer jobs, had gotten comfortable doing that, and started wanting to do something else, get back more into the business side. And I started looking into trading, and I was just like, I had this fascination with trading because it's like a direct way to get money, right? Like you buy something, you sell it, you make a profit, buy low, sell high, right?
Right.
So I got into flipping shoes, did that for a little bit, and then realized that wasn't like, I was like, that's like saturated and kind of done with.
Right.
So, come into 2020, and actually coming into 2021, which is when I really got into it, we had, so Bitcoin hit 20,000 in December and started really, getting on the news and getting news cycles. At the same time, the stock market's running up because we're coming off of the COVID lows.
Yeah.
Right. Economy is recovering. And then January, we had GME, the GameStop fiasco.
Oh, right.
I remember that. Yeah. That was big.
That's huge.
That was big.
That was huge. And part of the narrative was people are out of jobs and they're trying to figure out different things to do. Right. So one of the things that people wanted to do was trade because you had Robinhood.
Right.
And then crypto, which now everyone can trade on their phone. So a buddy of mine was trading stocks and was like, dude, you should be trading stocks. Like, dude, look, I'm making, making money here and there. So I started looking at that, like smaller stocks, got into a few things. And then at the same time, he's like talking about crypto. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have some Bitcoin. And so the previous year I went on Coinbase and spent, I think like 10 to 20 bucks on every crypto they had. And then put, I think maybe 1,500 bucks into Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
And then forgot about it.
And then it was this going up and up.
Yeah. So, and that was I looked back, that was in March of So literally right as it's hitting the bottom, and me, I know nothing at this point, right? About how, I kind of know it has gone up, but I look at my account and it's like literally going. I mean, I remember seeing it, and probably that first month in March, seeing it go up to like $5,000 from a $1,600 investment to $5,000, and then back down,
man,
and then being like, I'm out. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
So yeah, so fast forward the year, I checked the 1,600 had increased 560 something %.
Wow.
Literally caught the Bitcoin low in March, right after COVID, accidentally. And like Bitcoin posted like a 550 something % return that year.
Wow.
So I got it right at the bottom, had like, $10,000 to play with now. That I'm like, oh crap. So immediately, I'm checking the news and everything, and everyone's just like, Bitcoin's at 60K. So it goes from 20K in December to 60K February.
Right.
And I hear about this and I'm like, oh, this is crazy. I sell it all. Start doing research, realize Ethereum is a thing. And that really, that's where the innovation was happening. And then I realized I had to be a part of that because it all just made sense to me at this point. I had been searching for a trade,
right?
Something to trade, right? And financial freedom, starting a business. And then this just crypto being like, so kind of like how front-end development was the intersection of like art and development.
Right.
For me, I instantly saw like, oh, this is the intersection of development and finance. And I was totally into finance at this point.
Right.
So from there, it's like just went down the rabbit hole, and
The rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. Yeah.
So for our new kind of newbies, I should say, that have no idea, let's just even say they've heard Bitcoin, but they're like, I don't know what the hell that is, or like they've heard Ethereum. What's kind of like the difference between the two?
So the difference between the two is you want to think of Bitcoin as someone tried to create the best money that they could. And so good money has a bunch of different properties to it. And so the best money that we had up until Bitcoin was created was gold. And so, and basically because it's resilient and it has certain properties that make it hold its value over time.
Right.
So you put $1,000 in gold in 1 year, and then in a few years, it should either be $1,000 or a little bit more.
Right.
It holds its value really well, or maybe a little bit less. So that's called a stored value. That's what Bitcoin aimed to solve.
Sure.
Was the stored value problem, but for software. So a digital first currency made for the internet, right? We use money digitally, but this was like actual software money. So Bitcoin solved that problem. So fast forward, people start trying to do different things on Bitcoin and like augment it a little bit, connect it to things, try and just try and expand its use. The way that it was designed and the community around it does not like Bitcoin to change,
right?
Because it's really perfect as it is. The fundamentals of Bitcoin, I don't think are ever going to really change until maybe like 100 years, once there's some like future things that could do that. But so Ethereum, right? What's the difference? Ethereum was built out of a problem of like, how do we build applications around crypto?
Right.
And so it is considered a smart computing or a smart contract platform, or smart computing platform. And so the easy way to think about it is it's programmable money.
Got it.
And that the smart contract system that it has allows you to do what's considered arbitrary things in the software world. So pretty much anything you can think of that you can do with software, you can do it with Ethereum. So for example, I'm playing a game and you can use Ethereum to create a currency for the game, kind of like you might think of like Robux. Right. But the crypto version of that.
Right.
And so that's where it comes in, is that it's really good for applications. So you got stored value for Bitcoin and then applications. So think like mobile, the web app boom is kind of like the application boom is happening on Ethereum.
Right. And that's where NFTs come into play, right?
Exactly.
Right. And there's different things and different projects you can get involved, or you can buy and trade NFTs. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So like NFTs are like a smart contract application. It's a way to, it's like a token standard as well. So there's different standards, but either way, it was a way to build on top of Ethereum. Whereas you could there was like Bitcoin NFTs, but they're all very limited because the Bitcoin code doesn't really allow for things to be.
It's not flexible.
So
right.
It's
Sounds
not
like
flexible.
Right.
Got it.
Whereas Ethereum was from the ground up, like, hey, we want people to come build on this, kind of like come build on the App Store.
Right.
Like, come build on Windows or whatever.
Got it. So again, for newbies, because I know they're out there, they're just too shy to ask, like what is an NFT? And you're working on specific projects, but I guess to kind of start off, like what would you consider, how would you define an NFT?
Yeah, so an NFT stands for non-fungible token, and at its core, it's a protocol with a certain set of standards that are assumed. For example, there's like a link to media, right? So it's a type of token. If we look at something like Ethereum, which is kind of more, or Bitcoin, that's kind of more like money, you can look at an NFT as like a media token, or or it can be used to represent something other than money. So for example, it can be used to represent art, and you can think of it as a digital receipt. So by you owning the NFT, it ties it to your wallet, right, and says that you own this thing. So people are kind of using it as a way to, instead of just store like value, like, hey, I put $100 into it. It's like, hey, I did some work, I produced some artwork, and I want to attach it as a crypto, as a token, right? I want to tie those two things together and be able to kind of secure that ownership, and then make it tradable just like any other cryptocurrency is. So yeah, it's just a token that you can tie pretty much anything to.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of explained. I mean, the art world kind of blew up because of the NFTs, and people started putting their work on as an NFT. And I think what was the guy? I mean, he launched his and millions of dollars.
Well, I think people are also confused. Like they think like NFTs are just an image. I think initially that was because that's what people were posting, like projects of like pixelated images, or like I know people that made 2 million on just taking a screenshot of themselves or a selfie. Wow. But it's like it's more than that. It's more than just like an image or a picture. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a token, just like Ethereum or Solana or Bitcoin are a token. Yeah. It's just a different standard.
Right.
And that standard allows you to, like, if you're looking at Ethereum, like there's like 117 million roughly Ethereum coins and 21 million Bitcoins. But if you want to have like a one-of-one crypto, you use the NFT standard to do that.
Right.
And really it can represent anything. Right. So some like creative uses of it are like you can use it to represent like a membership. Yeah. Right. So hey, there's like 1,000 or 2,000 of this NFT, and it's like a pass into a Discord. Right. Or even Gary Vee did like a pass into like a restaurant, a physical restaurant club in New York. So you're going to like go scan your phone and then be able to get in this thing. Right. Another like really out there example is like supply chains. Right. Yeah, so like,
that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you produce eggs and you have chickens, right? And then you put those eggs in a carton, and then you put a QR code on the carton, and like now you have the geolocation of where that QR code was generated, and then you can add whatever data you want to it. Yeah. The like who the chicken that or hen that laid the eggs, right? And then by the time it gets to the store, you're on your phone and you scan that and you're like, okay, I know. And then it's a way of saying someone's putting their name on that QR code into that NFT to say, verify, hey, I did this.
Right.
And then everyone can look at like the flow of like, oh, someone receives the NFT, which is representing the eggs.
Right.
Some supplier, and then it's going to the grocery store. They have receipt of it, and it's all visible.
Right.
So yeah, and I mean, there's like really anything you can think of. You could represent an NFT with.
So maybe we can dig deeper into your project that you've started with your NFT project. Take us through like how that kind of started, where you're at now.
Yeah, so I have two that I started. Tim, I might have told you about the chess one. I did.
Yeah.
So, so the most I'll start backwards. The most recent one is an app that I'm calling Trinity. And so the idea there is like, I realize this problem in the market, which is, I mean, it's pretty apparent. Like everyone wants to make money year round. And then when it comes to trading cryptos, right, which is what the application's for, you have to solve the problem of like, what are you going to buy and sell? And then how are you, like, what makes you buy something, right? Everyone's goal is buy low, sell high. So what's your strategy, right? And so for me, I got into technical analysis, which is basically looking at charts, right, that you're going to see in your crypto app, except there's other places you can go and get really advanced charts and all these indicators, which you may have seen from like the stock market, typical picture of like all this crap on screen. So I started learning how to read those.
Shit's the Matrix, man. I swear.
It's the Matrix. I mean, it's amazing because you look at a chart and when you get it right, like you just feel like, oh my God, I just predicted the future. Like, you know, and it's not a science. It's just like, you know, anyways, before that, I was kind of I was into stocks. Just the idea of like buying and selling. I never really like looked too much into it. But I also realized early in my career, I messed around with trading algorithms. And so there's just like in the platform, there's like a little window where you can write code. And then so I started learning the programming language to write trading algorithms and like do stuff within this trading application. And then basically I'm just taking the ideas in my head and I'm coding them. Right. So, and then that kind of takes the human element out of the process of like, even whatever your idea is, you may not execute on it. So I wrote an algorithm and then you can kind of test it on the market previously. Right. And so it got a really good return. I used it a little bit, but I wasn't patient enough because it takes like days. So fast forward, my brother gets me in this conversation in this like meeting with a guy that runs a hedge fund and does algorithmic trading.
Oh, wow.
And it's like printing money. Because if you're good at it, you're basically printing money. And then I was like, oh crap, I have an algorithm too. I was like, I wonder if I can be like 10% as good as this guy.
Right.
So I dusted off and it had ran over the summer and had just been killing it with signals as far as like buy sell signals. And I'm just like, okay, this thing has legs. So, but I'm like, it only makes money at the easiest time to make money, which is when the market's going up. Very easy to make money at that point. But that's not all the time. And so like, there was a lot of time it wasn't active. And so I further developed the algorithm to trade year round. And then I'm like, oh crap, this thing, it tracks very well in the past. And I'm like, be a good idea to develop something around this to like my own application to trade for me. So that's where the idea for Trinity came around, and just stands for like, think of like a triangle, right? Make money while the market's going up, make money while the market's going down, and then make money when it's going sideways, when it's very flat.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the goal with that project. And yeah, that's one of them.
Nice. So are you still tweaking that? Or is it a thing where it's like constant iteration?
Yeah, I mean, it can, you definitely want to constantly develop it, like market conditions change,
Right.
right? So you may want to change the parameters of the algorithm, but then at the same time, something that I've been doing is like, so you take what the algorithm gives you, and then you can also form your own opinion on it, because it's not perfect. It's not better than, or it doesn't have all the benefits of a person, because a person can be like, for example, right now, be like, well, there's a war going on in another country. Hey, maybe I shouldn't trade right now. The algorithm would not stop.
Right.
So then you can make a decision, a discretionary decision, to be like, hey, I'm not going to trade. Like, just disconnect it.
Right.
Or you can be like, hey, it gave me a signal, but maybe I'm, detecting something where I think it's going to dip down a little further, and then I buy in. I don't buy in exactly when it says. And then it's like, it doesn't sell perfectly when you're in profit, right? It may go up 20%, come down 15% or 5%, and then it gives you the trigger to sell.
Right.
So you're up 20%, you might be like, hey, that's good enough for me. I'm out. Right. And that literally happened the other day.
Yeah.
Now the market's down because it just like Ether just like kissed 3,000. And that was part of my profit goal. And then because it wasn't sustaining up there, I was like, I'm out.
Right.
Done.
Right.
And then market comes down. So in that way, I'm kind of rethinking. And then there's also some logistics around, there's other platforms that do this that I can hook the algorithm into. So I'm thinking about like, what you want to do in software is it's because it's very expensive, very time consuming. You don't want to build the wrong thing.
Right.
You have 12 months in a year, and if it's going to take you 3 months, a quarter of a year, right, to build this thing, like you don't want to waste a quarter of your year.
Exactly.
So I'm starting to rethink how it can be most effective for people, because the idea also of like just like giving it your money essentially,
right,
is also quite like, it's a serious proposition.
For sure.
And so I'm trying to figure out the best way. Do I just give people the signals, let them decide?
Right.
So yeah, the idea is kind of evolving. Yeah.
There's a lot to go into it.
Yeah. I mean, for many, some people watching could eyes kind of glaze, like, what the hell did he just talk about? I think it's about the curiosity. So it's, about researching. I think what I hear a lot too, especially with NFT projects, is like, don't just follow like what people are telling you to buy. Like find projects that you are actually interested in, and usually, like, if they kind of have something going for themselves, like that's something worth investing. So, can we invest in your project?
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
You take here on tape.
Exactly. Yeah.
My wallet.
I mean, so one way to invest in it is just keep up to date with me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be posting signals from the algorithm to just see how it's doing. Because like I coded a new part of it, right? And one problem I have with like giving it to people is like, I just wrote a new part of the algorithm to trade year round. Like I've tested it the past 6 months when the market's going up. I'm very confident of how it would do during that part. And I'd be like, hey, if the market's going up and you want to stack some extra Ether, like, yeah, for sure. But during this particular time where we're in essentially like, we're on the edge of depression right now, or of a market crash. Like, it's the hardest time to trade. As the market's going down, it doesn't bounce much. So I'm a little bit hesitant because I need to verify, hey, like, I run it back on like 10 years of data to see how it does, but like, how is it going to do? So to answer the question, first I need to build it. Right. But just, just support me and, say what you think in the comments or whatever. And,
actually, we do have a question. Jordan, by the way, shout out. He's my coworker who's heavy into NFTs and crypto. So I may need to connect you guys. His question is your crypto trading bot similar to a bot you'd find on exchanges where it generates a transaction history and therefore capital gains tax events for each trade?
Yes. So the way that would work is you connect your exchange to the software, right, to the website, and everything is going to happen on your exchange. It just sends signals to the exchange of when to buy and sell. So all the transaction history would be there. And then, of course, I mean, I'm going to store it so on the website you can see like how your performance is doing. But and then you just export the data from your exchange and can kind of do the taxes.
And this is, to be clear, it's only trading Ethereum, right? Or is it?
So and also I designed it for Ethereum, not for like any other crypto, just because Ethereum is a very, what I call, pure trade.
Right.
Like the way that it moves on the chart is just very like textbook. And how you would like expect something to move, and there's a ton of eyes on it.
Sure.
It works out well.
Cool.
Love it. Yeah, appreciate everyone in the comments. I'm kind of curious, because with Chris, being into real estate, like where do you see the future, like crypto and NFT? I think recently somebody purchased a real estate NFT, like actual physical property. Like, do you guys like go back and forth, like kind of discuss what's that like, relevant to real estate, I guess?
Yeah, no, for sure. So that's something I looked at back in like June, July timeframe. So we had a vacation in Sarasota, Florida in August, in the middle of August. And so I had been trying to get Chris to invest, like, I mean, since the start. I was like, dude.
He was talking about it in our calls. He was like, my brother's telling me to invest. We're going to invest $60K or however much money. So
I got a funny story about him investing too.
Okay.
That I'll get to after. But so with the real estate thing, I had some ideas. I meet up with him and I'm like, dude, like imagine, so real estate through NFTs.
Right.
Like I list a property and it's an NFT, and then you can send that NFT to someone to transfer the value of the house. That's kind of like a basic idea of how to do it. So I look into the idea. First of all, I pitch it to him, and I'm like, imagine if you are the first Black guy, the first African American in LA to sell real estate through crypto.
Right.
I'm like, the competition isn't as high as like traditional real estate.
Right.
Sure.
A lot of people aren't doing it. So that was kind of my pitch to him. It's just like, it's a market where a lot of people aren't in it. So it's a good idea.
Very true.
So he bought into the idea, and he's like, all right, go figure out how to do it. I'm like, cool. So I go home, or I go to the hotel, or the house we're staying in, start researching. Basically what it came down to was lawyers to broker the deal. And just like KYC, where'd the money come from? And then the other thing is like an NFT is real estate. You can't attach there's no protocol or way. Like, how do you attach a title?
I was just going to say, like, title search, usually there's liens and stuff. Like,
So I think the one that sold in Europe as an NFT, how they did it was the NFT was tied to a LLC. So you actually, the NFT was in the smart contract was the owner of this LLC. So what they did was the LLC owned the real estate.
Yeah.
Right. And they transferred the ownership of the LLC to the owner of the NFT when the transaction happened. And then within those assets was the real estate. And that's the only asset the LLC had.
Yeah. See, that makes me think of something I realized when I was like researching this, is you run into a problem where, because no one has really done this before, you have to like jump through more hoops than you would to even buy a house normally.
Yes. Right.
And most definitely.
Yeah. And so it's like maybe just sell your crypto and buy the house, right? Because you need lawyers, right? So it's like pretty, I think, capital intensive to do it, and then finding buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
So I think you could like probably point that out in like the supply chain example that I had.
Sure.
It's like there's certain things that are a good idea with crypto, but it might be like a little ahead of its time
Mhm.
because there's no like infrastructure, there's nothing set up for you to help you.
Right.
Right.
So if
Somebody
you're-
has to
Go ahead.
mess up for
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
Yeah, you're gonna be on your own.
Or if you're a lawyer, you're going to figure that out, and then you
Right.
can have that be your business,
Exactly.
and then people come to you to be the crypto guy that writes all these contracts regarding real estate.
Exactly. So it's like, it's kind of like you'd have to be like the right person, because for me it was like it's a really good idea, but the execution is tough.
I see that kind of being the future now with like moving forward with professions is like, I'm a crypto designer. I'm a crypto developer.
Web3 programmer, it's the thing.
I've seen like Metaverse interior design.
Yeah, or
Really?
fashion designers
Wow,
too.
that's
That's
awesome.
huge right now.
Yeah, Metaverse fashion designer. I was talking to my friend Gabby, and so she's on Twitter. She's well and good, and so she's very much into crypto. So we're talking, and I think it was like McDonald's. I don't know. I've heard some like just chains getting into the metaverse, right?
Yeah, they are.
And so the idea of like you're gonna have like a store, people are gonna come buy digital items and whatever. And it's like I've heard also the idea of like real people working in the store. So I'm like, should I go try and get a McDonald's job at like Metaverse McDonald's? Like, I wonder how much they're paying.
That's funny.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
Like, do you get hungry in the metaverse? Like,
right?
Yeah. I don't know. Like,
someone's got so like in a video game, you'd be like to recharge your character somehow. Like, you have like some sort of decay.
I guess you're right.
So like your character starts walking really slow if he doesn't eat or like, so you gotta.
I know. Does your character get out of shape? Like
exactly. Now you need a metaverse gym.
Yeah.
Metaverse trainer.
I mean, this goes deep sometimes. Like, really, because I've been researching the whole real estate thing within the metaverse, and with Decentraland, buying land, and then also building, basically property on that.
Right.
And then what I know some people have done is partnered up people that do have land in traffic areas in Decentraland, and then built a structure over there, and then had events, and then they would sell tickets as NFTs to be a part of these events, and then they would sell merch based on that event or whatever, and then that would be a special invitation to a exclusive event, at a certain location in Miami or New York in real life, right? Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways to kind of utilize I guess the metaverse, the NFTs, and then also translate that to real world applications or purchases or networking as well too.
Yeah, and it's kind of like everyone's just trying to experiment and figure out
exactly
like what works, what do people really gravitate towards. But I think there's been a ton of like NFT events. I know Art Basel was a big one. The Bored Apes had an actual yacht party.
Yeah,
which is
that's crazy.
Because when I first got into it.
Oh yeah, you got to tell this story about your Bored Ape.
Yeah, I'll tell the story about the Bored Ape. So, just before we get into it.
Yeah.
First of all, like in the actual, so before I get into the story, like I bought a Bored Ape for $1,600 in March, right? Before it was like a thing at all. In the chat, people were like, "Yo, what about if we have an actual yacht party?" And you got to realize they're worth $300,000 now. We're talking about when they were worth like 200 times less. Right. So they were worth $1,600, and it was more of an idea. And for whatever reason, that like group, that NFT group, just like kind of. I think the branding and the people behind it were just really good at what they did. And so the idea just kind of proliferated. It was like the hardest idea in crypto, like basically thus far. Or not in crypto, but in NFTs thus far.
Yeah.
Like,
Didn't they get it? They just recently got an investment, right? I think someone invested.
Yeah. The company's called Yuga Labs.
Yeah.
I think someone might have they have like a multi-billion-dollar valuation.
Yeah.
And like by the summertime, they were close to, if not $1 billion company. So
Wow.
like you're talking a company that went from like basically zero to $1 billion in less than a year.
Yeah.
That still hasn't been a year yet.
No,
Like,
not yet.
we're about to come up on a year. So yeah, pretty crazy. So I can tell the Bored Ape story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I get into crypto like February is when I really start going into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of February, Beeple had a sale for his like everydays piece, which is like he did like 5,000 pieces of art for like 5,000 days straight. Sold it for $69 million. That was the big one that like hit the news. I was just like, what is this? This is ridiculous. And I'm already like caught up with tokens. So eventually I'm like realizing like in crypto, you're always trying to find like, what's the next big thing? Like what's the wave? And so I realized I was like, oh crap, NFTs are the wave. It's another thing no one understands because it's so new. No one knows how to apply it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to look into this. I see all these profile pictures like you were talking about.
Right.
Like the apes, basically every animal in the animal kingdom. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Yeah, so I'm going to buy this. And I'm looking at the prices, like several ether, 1 ether, half an ether, whatever. And it's like a profile pic. Like we're paying thousands of dollars for profile pics. So I'm looking at this for like weeks, like frozen, like how do I justify buying?
Right.
Like I get buying, heck, spend $5,000 on a crypto, right? But spend $5,000 on an NFT didn't make sense at the time. And then I realized it was just so popping. I was like, I got to do it. So I looked at I was trying to find a cheaper one. So I'm on Twitter, like following all these crypto people, and I see the Bored Apes, like people with Bored Ape profiles on Twitter, and I'm like, they're just it's like ape follow ape is the hashtag. And then out of all the groups that I had seen like collecting around these profile pics, these different groups, just the Bored Apes came across as like the most passionate group. And then on top of that, I'm looking at the art, and as soon as I saw the art, I was like, this is the best artwork I have seen. And I'm like, for like 2 weeks, I'm like just looking at different NFTs. And so, and at this point, I still am not even thinking about flipping them. I don't know their prices.
Sure.
Like, it's kind of all a blur to me. And so I'm like, okay, well, I want to join this group because they seem really cool. And everyone's like about this ape stuff. And it makes sense with crypto because everyone's kind of a lot of people are degens, aping into stuff as they call it. So I was like, this is a perfect meme. This makes sense to me. But the prices were expensive. Right. So up until that point, the most I'd spent on a piece of art was $500. And that was a major deal to me. Right. Major deal. And so I'm like, the floor price, the cheap price was like $1,600, roughly, like I think $1,300, $1,200 is as cheap as you could find a Bored Ape. And so I'm like searching, and then I finally find one that I like, had like 3D glasses, it was blue. And I was like, okay, this is in my budget. It's like $1,600. All right, I'm going to sell this. I'm going to get this. I'm going to hold it for years, and maybe it'll be worth something. That was like my thought process. So I buy it, join the Discord. I'm like, all right, this is dope. This is cool. Like people are talking about crypto stuff. And then kind of like ignored the Bored Ape group and just like amassed a bunch of followers on Twitter from just like having a Bored Ape as my profile picture. And didn't think too much of it. And then it kind of started like Waka Flocka wanted to get into it. And so joined like a Twitter Spaces with him. And he's like asking, which one do I get? The like Bored Apes are trying to like guide him to be like, yo, this is the one for you. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
And so cool thing, he ends up following me because it's like 30 of us. He's like, I'm gonna follow every Bored Ape in here. And so that should have been the point where it like clicked with me. Like, and even Gabby was like saying like, "Oh my God, this is blowing up" or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe the price had went up to like $5,000. So I'm up like $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. You know.
What was the time span between when you bought it to where it went to $4,000?
Oh yeah. So it went up like 3x or so in like a month. If that. So the first month it triples in value. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. This is pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I'm like, but I'm not selling it for $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little while in, I get an offer for like, I think it was like 6 Ether or something, like 5 Ether, which was like 13,000. And I'm like, okay, this is getting ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like 13,000. I'm like, I might have to just take this. So then I kind of mulled over it and was like, nah. I'm like, it's pretty dope. I'm like, I don't want to like. It's now like my digital identity.
Yeah.
My profile pic. I'm like,
Right.
That's the reason I'm getting followers on Twitter. I'm like, I don't know if I want to take it off.
Right.
So then I get the bright idea. I'm also doing crypto trade on the side. I get the bright idea. Let me try and get a better ape. Because when I was first looking, there was another ape with 3D glasses with cheetah fur that I wanted. I had one with blue fur. And I'm like, I'm going to get a better ape.
With the fur.
Yeah. And so I'm trading at the time, doing pretty decent. So I go onto this. I sell the ape.
For how much?
Right. For 10,500 or something like that.
Okay.
Right. The price had come down a little bit. And I was like, let me get rid of this thing before it goes down too much. So I sell the ape, go take that ether to do a trade, right? In a trade where I can get liquidated, as in where I can lose all the ether, all the money. So I'm thinking I'm a hot shot and I'm going to like, you know, make like an extra few $1,000s and then go back and get this other one that was a few thousand more than the one I had. End up getting liquidated that night. Lost about $14,000 in my sleep.
Wow.
In like 6 hours.
Wow.
Wasn't gonna like get the ape now that it's like 12 grand. So here's the crazy part of the story. After I lost my ape, within a week, it just starts blowing up. Right? And when I say blowing up, I mean, I sold it at 10K. By the end of the week, this thing is like $18,000.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, for a secondary, just like flatline, and then like 3 days, like 2 or 3 days after I got liquidated, it just starts going up by $1,000 a day.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I thought about calling my family and being like, hey, I need this money to get back in this thing.
Yo, people in the comments are hilarious. LOL, this story has me sweating. RIP, gotta set up those price alerts text, brother. And Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, let me tell you about my emotions during this time.
Yeah.
So first of all, after I lose $14,000 in 6 hours, making a trade I shouldn't. Let me tell you the trade as well. Spying on me, seriously. Yeah. So I was, the whole market had went down in April after Ethereum went up to like 4K something. Right. Market goes down. Solana is still pumping while the whole market's down. And just before I go to bed, I'm like, this ain't right. I'm like, why is Solana pumping? Everything else is down. I try and short it, and that's how I got liquidated because it just kept pumping.
It just kept pumping up. Yeah.
I'm like, son of a gun. So I felt like crap. Like I felt terrible. Like I mean, I was in bed like, oh my God. Like I was in physical pain. It physically hurt me that this has happened. And then once the ape started going up,
oh man, that's even more.
It's just another stab.
I know, right? Dude, they're twisting it now.
The knife was getting twisted in my heart. And so and that was like pretty much, so I said I started off with the 10 grand. Like I didn't put that too much more in. Like that was like it. And so yeah, it starts going up. Come to find out, so this Sarasota trip happened like 2 months after. It keeps going up like $1,000 pretty much a day. By the time I get to Sarasota, the ape that I had was worth 60 something thousand, like $60,000 or $70,000. By the time I left Sarasota, I was there for a week. It was worth 120.
Oh man.
So
So we wouldn't even be
where the
here.
story-
We wouldn't be here probably.
No, so that's where the story ends. The silver lining thing is though, looking back, like, they also gave out they gave me a dog which I sold for like $6,000, right? And then they gave the mutants out shortly after, which was like a $20,000, just like airdrop. Here's the NFT. That happened during the week in Sarasota, which is why the price was going up. Come to find out, that was the reason. Because whenever I was in there, they were like, "Yo, we're gonna drop you another NFT." And then there was like rumors, and then more celebrities started piling in during the summer. Stephen Curry bought one, and that was like the blow up. It just really started popping off. And then come to find out, the whole run up was because they were going to give you another NFT. That NFT ended up being worth $20,000. Now it's worth like 60 or 70.
Wow.
And so yeah, that's basically how the story ends. And then from there, I'm just like, now my goal is like get a Bored Ape. You know?
Yeah.
Well, apparently, according to Tez, Bored Ape floor is like $216K right now. I'm having heart palpitations.
Yeah, I did. It was bad.
Wow.
It took me like probably 2 months to like mentally recover.
You had a breakup almost like.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it gets worse.
No, when you first told me that story, I was like, man, I was feeling that pain. Like that's. Oof.
It was the first NFT I bought. Period.
Wow.
Like, which was crazy in and of itself, and then just like. Yeah, like fortunately I don't like feel anything, and I ended up like making myself whole by doing another killer move. But yeah, it was a tragedy. Yeah, I still have my Decentraland hoodie that they gave me for having one. So and then I also paid an artist to make a version of my Bored Ape in his like art style for like $500. So I still have that I'm never gonna sell. So that's my little attachment to it, and
I appreciate that you sharing, because that's an epic story.
Right?
Like, seriously,
it's not social media sexy to be like,
But
hey,
no.
But it could be like how I lost.
No.
It's a L. Yeah, it's like it's L.
I can tell you're still hurting a little bit.
Right.
It still stings a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
That's so funny. So like with NFTs, like selling your NFTs, there's for people who are new, there's kind of a process, right? There's things that they call it gas fees. There's what else kind of fees that are involved?
There's a seller fee.
There's
a marketplace fee.
Yeah, a lot of people think like, oh, I'm just gonna sell it and it's like I'll get my money, but there's people forget.
There's taxes.
Right. So it's like, what are some things to consider if they have an NFT and want to sell it?
Yeah. So let's assume you want to make money selling
it.
Right.
One thing to consider is like the NFTs are priced based on hype. Right. So if you're buying an NFT to sell it to make money, like there's like two times to buy. If something is hyped up or something is not hyped up. If something's hyped up, the price, assuming everything's going well, is going to keep going up. And then a good general rule of thumb is like buy multiples. Obviously, you can't always do this, but buy multiples of the NFT and then sell a few of those to make your money back. So if you bought 3, sell 1 and try and have it cover the cost of the other 2.
Oh, gotcha.
So you'd have to like sell into that hype a little bit. Or you could just buy 5 and sell 3 of them and make your money back. Something like that. So make your money back first. And now you have free NFTs. Very nice situation to be in. And then you're not going to necessarily want to feel like selling it, and you can ride that thing out until whenever. So that's kind of my strategy. Like I've done that with 2 collections where now I have like 5 NFTs for free that are worth like probably around at least $4,000 or more that are just like free because I bought multiples, sold them. And then, so that's one strategy is like buy into the hype, but you also have to be very careful because what I've realized is the NFT market moves blazingly fast. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can buy something, it doubles in price the next day, and the day after that, it drops down 50%.
Wow.
So you really gotta be careful there. But the other safer thing to do instead of buying like the hyped up projects, which are going to be really expensive anyways, is to just find stuff that is cool that other people aren't seeing it as cool or super cool. It's not hyped up. And then with the expectation that, hey, like, I believe this thing is going to get better. And so, recent example, I minted a project that like didn't sell out immediately. There were like 8,000 of these things, or 7,777 of them, and I got them for like $200 a piece. Minted 5 of them. They took weeks to sell out, but now they're worth, I'll just call it 3 times as much, and they've been up to 5 times as worth. So I sold 2 of them, and now I have 3 of them for free, just because like I knew the developer. So this is the other thing, like, how am I picking them? Like, I'm picking based on the team.
Right.
And this developer had built another crypto app that had gotten popular, and the artwork was dope, right? Everyone wants to buy cool looking stuff. So I'm like, this dude has already delivered a project, and he's got this cool idea. It's a play to earn thing. And I'm like, it's $200 a piece. So now I'm $1,200 in. The upside is pretty high. Right. So like, why not take a chance on it? Instead of like, you know, you buy a Bored Ape, let's just say, or like a Mutant Ape, let's just imagine, right? You got 16 ether, 18 ether, or whatever, and like your value can swing a few $1,000s a day,
right,
of it. So if you buy something really cheap that's super undervalued, that's like for someone that's a beginner, that's like the way. And if you're just balling, you can hop in some of these projects if you're willing to take a big risk and do it that way.
What's minting for newbies?
Yeah, so minting is the process of like whenever the NFT gets launched, right? It gets launched based off of a smart contract, and when you interact with that smart contract to initially bring that NFT onto the blockchain, right? Because you can't see it. You go to a website, you mint it, right? Basically connect your wallet to the website, pay a fee. Usually it's very low to mint, relatively. And then now it's yours, right? So like, kind of like, think of it as you're minting a coin. You press it, and then now you got a silver coin or something. That's what minting is. And so just pay fees and the cost of the art.
So basically you're pre-buying it before it hits the market type of thing. Is that correct?
That's the first time it hits the market.
Yeah. The first market. Okay.
Yeah. You're the first person to have that NFT, right? So we know we can trade the NFT on somewhere like OpenSea.
Right.
So after you've minted it, and this happens on every project, immediately it's going to be able to be bought on OpenSea, and someone can list it for a certain price.
Got it.
And then that's where most people get them, because the mint is like I was saying, if it's a good project, it's instantly sold out.
Right.
And there's like bots too.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Really cool.
That's awesome.
Where, I guess for somebody kind of starting out, like where should they even begin? Like, we don't have to go into the details, but somebody who wants to get into crypto or learn more about NFTs, what's kind of a plan, which we've kind of heard already, you need to come out with a crypto NFT course.
I know,
wink,
right?
wink, wink. But, you know, for someone who's like completely new, that's just kind of getting in, what sort of steps would you recommend if they want to invest?
Yeah. NFTs or crypto in general.
Right.
So first thing is just do some studying on like, what is the blockchain? What is a cryptocurrency? What is a hardware wallet? Really good place, coinbase.com/learn. Go read some of the basics. And then so that way you're not kind of confused when you're looking at all this stuff. From there, follow people on Twitter. So the way that I would do that is an easy way is go to my if you go to my Twitter account, which is it's kind of tough, but it's CPU 010101. Right? If you go there, you'll see some people that I'm following, which is a lot of people, but check out some of the tweets that I've made. And you kind of want to just go to someone and start following who they're following, and get to the core of the community. And you're gonna follow the best people in the space, and then just see what they're talking about, and learn what's possible in crypto. And once you learn that, you can start picking like what do you like, which ones do you gravitate towards, and just like study that and figure out how to get good with that, and then I think everything will kind of flow from there.
Cool.
Love it.
Awesome.
Tez here asks, what projects are you currently looking into or looking at?
Yeah, so projects that I'm currently looking at, I mean the ones so one that I'm really into right now is called Magic. And so it's part of what's called the Treasure universe. And they bill themselves as the Nintendo of like NFTs, or NFT platforms. They're trying to create like a plug and play system where projects can be built on top of it. So that's a pretty novel idea in the crypto world. People don't like OpenSea a lot. So Magic, like games are being made on that. And I've minted, right now I'm in this game called Seed of Life, or the game's called Life, which has been delayed for way too long. So it's starting to create some FUD around it. People are starting to get a little worried. I'm holding on. So Life, which is from the Treasure Group. And then another game is called, it's like a Shogun game. It's just called Shogun. Don't really know much about it, but I saw it getting pumped up by some people. I bought it and trying to like make my money back on it now. And then, this Fancy Birds game. I'm into that, seeing where that goes. And then for like big things for like 2022, like the rest of the year, is I'm looking to get some big airdrops from some places I think tokens are coming from. So the major thing, the big theme for this year is scaling. And like everyone knows Ethereum is very expensive to use, but like there's a way to use it for cheap, right? And it's this thing called layer 2. A layer 2 is like a side network to Ethereum. It sends a bunch of transactions back to Ethereum. So like it's almost like a sandbox people play in, and then it groups all the things that happened in the sandbox and sends them back as one big transaction.
Got it. Yeah.
As a way to make Ethereum cheaper.
Yeah.
So those platforms don't have tokens yet. One of them does. They're going to have tokens because when they have a token, it draws people to try and get that token to the platform. The tokens are incentives to get people to use them. They're going to give them out, and then they're going to make a program to reward people.
Interesting.
So the layer 2 one called Arbitrum is one that I'm actively using. Also just MetaMask in general. I'm waiting for the MetaMask token. I'm doing transactions on there randomly to get that airdrop. So those are two big ones, MetaMask and then Arbitrum. And just, there's a whole bunch of cool stuff happening on Arbitrum because it's new and it's a cheap way to use Ethereum.
Cool. That's awesome. Some gems right there.
Yeah. Speaking of tokens, Gabby posted, what should I look for when it comes to investing in new tokens?
If I had one rule where if you did this one thing, you'd be good. It's investing in the team or the person. Generally, it's going to be a team. So you could almost blindly invest in something because you'd be like, oh, like let's just talk about not crypto. Like Mark Zuckerberg's coming out with a new app. Like people are just going to blindly invest in that because he has a track record of delivering.
Right.
So like if you research into crypto a little bit, find out who are the people that have delivered in crypto and have been there for years, you'll start to find it's a small group of people,
Mm-hmm.
and the people that they vouch for,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have a name to protect. I can pretty much just invest in any of their stuff.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
So people that were really close to that. So yeah, the team. If I know the team is dope,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can basically blind invest and be like, hey, they're smarter
You're in
than
good
me.
hands.
Yeah.
Like, go do something with it.
Love it.
That's awesome.
So we're kind of at the it's already an hour 10, man.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
you
I
just
know.
kind of flowing.
I know, right?
So we'll definitely wrap up here. I think we've answered most of the questions.
Mhm. Yeah.
I guess before we kind of head out, like maybe you can think about some things that you want to leave the audience with.
Sure.
But in the meantime, guys, thank you guys so much for posting
Yeah.
your questions. Make sure you hit subscribe,
Yeah.
follow, set reminders. We have here we go.
There you go. Yep.
Get the Bag podcast. Follow us on Instagram. Make sure you follow Dennis, CryptoDen _100T.
Yep.
We'll make sure to also add his Twitter handle as well in the comments. Ricardo says replay this podcast all weekend. Love it.
Yeah,
Appreciate the
love it,
support, brother. What do you want to leave the audience with today?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'll leave the audience with the outlook on the future and how I'm kind of looking at like the next 10 years. Because that's what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you want to think about with crypto is it's like extremely volatile. And like you can get big swings in the assets that you own. So like think about it in 10 years. Like if you buy Bitcoin now, in 10 years, highly likely to be worth more. If I buy like say SHIB, right, in 10 years, I'm not going to tell you that. Like I'm not so confident. If I buy Ethereum in 10 years, I'm pretty confident that it's going to be worth something. So like think about investments that'll last 10 years. And if they're not investments that'll last 10 years, know when to get out of them and go back to something safe. Because in 10 years, like all this is going to be over in the sense that like no one's going to care. It's going to be like the internet where it's just like a normal thing. There's not going to be a bunch of money to be made.
Right.
It's going to be super established. So like figure out now where you want to put your money so that in the end, like you have an opportunity to have like a major share of this thing. And like at the end of my name is _100T. The reason it's 100T is two reasons. One, CryptoDen was taken. And so I had to come up with something else. And I came up with 100T based off of this other really cool guy. And it's basically to say his was 1T. And so 100T is the size of basically all assets in the world. And, you know, software has invaded everything. It touches everything that it can. Crypto is going to do the same thing. And so the total addressable space, like the total, like how big this can get is everything. It's the world. Like this could be our new money.
Sure.
Right. So massive opportunities, and you don't have to be an expert because pretty much no one's an expert. So just learn and get in there and you can, Hey,
you heard it first. Don't come 10 years down the line and be like, oh, I didn't invest. We're going to go back to this video and be like, hey, Dennis told y'all. So before we head out, what's your Twitter handle again?
Yeah, so Twitter is CPU010101.
Okay.
Possibly add another 011 there. But if you search me, you'll see I have this like red thing with horns.
It's not a board ape.
It's not a board ape.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Love it. Well, thank you so much for
thank you.
On, man. Happy birthday, Dennis, man. Thank you guys so much for happening with us. We'll be back next week on a regular schedule every Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you guys tune in. Appreciate y'all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.